We've got a panel discussion on taking Indian InsurTechs global. We've got a great set of folks who can share their experience, their insights, and what the Indian InsurTechs can do to go beyond Indian shores. I've got with me Amit Tiwari, co-founder and president at Xceedance. It's an insurance-focused consulting firm covering whole gamut of technology and business operations. He's president EMEA and APAC. In his previous role, he was CTO for Berkshire Hathaway here in India. Extensive work experience of over 2 decades. Worked a lot with firms like Direct Line, Churchill, Tesco, and so on. Graduated from IIT Bombay. I've also got with us Piyush Singh, co-founder of Friss, founder of Indian American Insurance Professionals Association. Well over 35 years of work experience, CIO, SVP, Great American. Prior to that, CIO of RLI Insurance, winner of Elite 8 CIO Awards from Insurance and Technology twice. Worked also with PwC, ANZ Bank, Citicorp. He has handled insurance operations and technology for these very large global insurers. I've also got with me Mangesh Vaitla. He's co-founder and executive director of C2L Business Solutions. Close to 3 decades of overall experience, IT, digital transformation, distribution performance management, underwriting and policy admin. We also have Ashish Tanna with us, co-founder Aureus Analytics, previously the vice president at CBA Systems India. Very passionate about big data, data science, data analytics, data engineering, everything data. And I also have as the moderator, Gourab Mukherjee, co-founder and CEO of Aktivolabs. Gourab founded Aktivolabs to improve the population health and longevity. Over 15 years of work experience, education from ECU Australia, and one of the, I would say, very active members of the InsurTech Forum in India. So I'll let Gourab take over from here and elicit the experience and the exposure that these 4 executives have to share with us.
Thanks so much. Can you guys hear me? All right. Thank you so much. And with that introduction, I'm super excited and pretty stoked to be moderating this amazing panel over here. And I know we are all running behind time, and then we are just probably a few conversations away from a very exciting lunch that look to be spread outside. So we'll get directly to the point. I think the whole idea of the panel today is about founder stories, and we're talking about the opportunity for the Indian InsurTechs to go global. Some of them have. One panelist couldn't make it because his startup just went on NASDAQ, right? Rhodes and Rohan's not here today, but we'll talk about the other founder stories. So probably can start with you, Amit, in terms of the background, in terms of your starting days, how it started, and what's the origin story behind going beyond the 4 walls of India?
Hello. Thanks, Gourab. So I'll go back a little. It is somewhere around 2010. I was running a similar kind of a setup called Startup Leadership Program. And this was basically an ecosystem of budding entrepreneurs and bring them in a 6 months to 9 months long curriculum, which is kind of learning based on each other's experience and then bringing the experiences of some veterans as well. Make My Trip founder, and there were several others who kind of volunteered that they'll work with us to ensure that in India, entrepreneurial community thrives. So was running that, and as part of that, I met Arun Balakrishnan, who is currently our CEO. 2 months later, in the program, he left it, and he told me that he is joining Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire Hathaway was setting up a business here in India. The idea for Berkshire Hathaway was to leverage the large population here and get into this large market. But they couldn't really come as an insurance company because of the 26% limitation that was there in 2010, 2011. So they came as a corporate intermediary liaised with Bajaj Allianz, and they started distributing. So I was the CTO. I took the role as well. And we started that. In fact, Warren Buffett was here, and we were fortunate to meet him. And then I was taking registrations for all the entrants to attend that call. And I got several live threats because I couldn't allow many people who really were big fans of Warren. But that aside, we ran that business for close to 2 years. It was a completely direct-to-customer sale of motor, travel, and health insurance policies. In those 2 years, we realized that the FDI limitation is not going away so soon. And the purchase of insurance policy completely direct was still something farther in future. So we closed that business, and that's when we started scouting around that what is it that we should do next. We understood insurance. We looked at all the products ventures in India. We looked at all the services ventures in India. And then we decided that BFSI is something that is being highly serviced by Indian entrepreneurs. But as part of BFSI, I is mostly silent. Hardly there is enough focus on I. So we thought that let's only focus on I, and we'll do everything around I. And that's how Xceedance started. Xceedance is basically a term, exceedance probability while you do catastrophe modeling. So Xceedance started, we got some of the clients early on who were really keen to work with us because they had some exposure of the management team. But we got a good break because 4 top people from AIG left, and they joined Berkshire Hathaway and set up a specialty insurance firm. We got that business. And that's when we started kicking. We built around the whole of operations, finance and accounting, catastrophe modeling, actuarial technology, data, all of those features. And then our understanding was clear right from then that India will no longer be a cost arbitrage play. It has to be done differently. And then we started looking at how to safeguard our business from future. And everything was technology driven. When we do catastrophe modeling as well, today it is mostly like on click of a button. You click a button, the SOVs come in, data is cleansed, data is fed into a certain model, model is run, output is pulled up, and then you bring up insights to the underwriter so that they can take a better call. Now today, Xceedance is working with close to 150 different insurers, reinsurers, brokers, MGAs across the globe. And we have got 3,200 odd teammates. Good success, but definitely ways to go for us.
Now, fascinating. We'll come to how you went about that and how you used understanding of the arbitrage model. We'll get to that in the next part. Piyush, your experience has been different. You know, you have been in India, then now you live in Houston, you run your own firm, also helping entrepreneurs to make that move from here to there. Tell us a bit more about what you're doing right now. Yeah.
So, can you hear me? Yeah. So I'm on, I call it version 5 of my career. Version 1 was consulting, and in consulting I thought in-house people didn't have a clue what they were doing. So I switched to in-house, worked in the corporate sector and in US and insurance for around 20 years. And I think you'll find this interesting, literally on 15th, and then that was version 2. Version 3 was really, I also was an adjunct professor at University of Cincinnati at the same time. And then on 15th August, midnight 2015, I sent my resignation from the corporate career. I said, I'm done. I wanted independence, and I basically started my startup. Didn't know how it was going to be, but ran a startup for small commercial insurance. And in fact, one of the early calls we got was from Mr. Jain's outfit about, what we were doing is really what they wanted to do. Ran that startup. Fortunately, in the year of pandemic, we got an offer that we couldn't resist because it was really attractive. We were growing very well. Sold it to Friss. I'm still with Friss, but now I'm actually on the board of a couple of insurance setups. That's really what I'm doing at this point of time. So what I've really learned is the way US market works. I think that's been a great experience for me in how it works, and I've seen it both from the in-house side as well as running it from a startup orientation as to how the large companies work and how easy and difficult it is in terms of being able to break into those large organizations in there. But what I've really learned is the relationships and the networks. If I really want to give you a couple of takeaways is US market is very different. And if you think of a few takeaways, one, relationship, networks, perseverance with them is very, very key at the end of the day. And the second part is there's a lot of folks who come with a very engineering mindset. So you really have to realize that there's some certain things that you'll have to spend which your rational mind will say absolutely no. And number one of that is marketing. Okay, if I count one of my failures was not really being good at marketing in that respect. So you'll learn that as part of that. And then there's a frugal aspect that all of us have that actually does become challenging in the US market because you do land up burning. Now, if you were 3 years, 4 years earlier, VCs were willing to burn all kinds of money. Now they actually think of a novel word called profit. So they are going to be pushing you in that respect in there. So that's something that's very key for all of us to go through that learning. And I just want to leave one other thing. Part of my, giving back to the community is we just started an organization called Indian American Insurance Professionals Association in US, which is really comprised of the top 50 executives, Indian American origin. And if I give you a piece of data, it's a very, I hate to put it this way, but it's a very white, pale male industry in the insurance marketplace in US. And if you count all the Fortune 500 companies and you only look at insurance, life, health, and PNC side, and you just look at just the board members, there's only 4 board members that are actually Indian American origin, out of which only one of them is actually an insurance guy, which is a G-Gen, okay? The rest of them are really non-insurance people. So there's a long way for us to go, but that only means that, we can only go up. And that's the whole objective behind this association is to actually provide mentorship for the 100,000 people following us. Some of us were very lucky and fortunate, but also bridge the gap with the whole InsurTech ecosystem. How can we actually help them out from leaving the shores of India and actually approaching the biggest market of the entire world?
So yeah, founders in the room, you know whom to speak to. You're looking at the US market right now. Mangesh, your experience, not so much, right? You started off in the US just now, but you've been around for 14 years and just a fascinating success story in terms of what you have achieved across Asia Pacific. So yeah, tell us how did that move happen? How did you go outside India and what prompted that? And of course, tell us a bit about the company.
Yeah, thanks. See, basically, we have been in insurance even prior to starting C12 is over 15 odd years, insurance solutions, policy admin platforms in Asia and Europe and US as well. So we had those experience, but it was a timing around when the markets where we could see a trend that was shaping towards actually componentizing things because the core systems were not changing or was not easy to change. So we saw a cube that where we could see if we could externalize, and there were huge gaps as well. So the gaps could be in the distribution, performance management with the advent of so many different channels and emerging. Most of the core systems were unable to handle all the complexities that were needed in terms of the performance management aspect of it. We saw a gap in the new business underwriting transformation. So, and we saw a gap in the low ticket micro insurance. That's how we began our journey. And me and my other 3 co-founders, having had spent nearly 1.5 to 2 decades in the industry, we were passionate about helping insurers in moving to the next change. So that's how we started. But over the journey of the last 14, 15 years, what we see ourselves, we have evolved in milestones. Nearly every 4 or 5 years, there's significant change. So the initial thought was to make it componentized and externalize things. But as we moved around, there were new trends that kept on swallowing the advent of mobile technologies that really transformed the new business and underwriting rather than being in the central processing centers and the branches, how to make it in the last mile at the first point of contact. And not just being just a data entry, but how to make it ensure that it moves into making a decision at the point of sale. As some of the speakers were talking about that it's not about you are giving a digital experience and taking 3 days to come back and tell what documents to be submitted or what documents are needed. So those kind of things, bringing a true digital experience at the point of sale. So that's how with the mobile technologies, but as we further moved around, we saw a new areas of digital ecosystems, what we see in India, the India stack, or those kind of things really swap. Plus, I would say even from a technology landscape, the cloud really helped us in terms of reducing the entry barriers and made it more expense rather than a capex, and that kind of a journey. So we have seen a complete shift within the last 15 years, a huge move. And the final point that I would say is that we have got 40 odd customers across 11 markets. So that itself highlights some of the adoption that has helped us, which we have learned. And nearly a million plus agents use our point of sale platform in the complete digital experience, with average 4+ channels in every insurers using a complete transformation suite. So we are not just giving apps or applications specific to a journey. We just ensure that it completely transforms and make it completely digital in the point of sale journey. We make it completely transformed in terms of onboarding any type of business or distribution models. And today nearly 3 million odd pays getting processed on this, nearly 700+ products across all our customers, across so many geographies, so many compliances which are divergent. It is not a one homogeneous market. So we learned a lot, and we evolved and matured around that.
We're going to talk about those learnings in just a bit, but before that, Ashish, your origin stories and how did the move happen beyond the four walls of India? Yeah.
Okay. So my first startup was in healthcare, talking to US hospitals and all, right? So I already had some experience on the US healthcare side of it. My other two founders were a software testing and consulting company based out of India, and they also kind of moved the geographies out, right? So, and they were working more with insurance and banking. So when we three decided to get together in 2013-14, as usual, we thought that because of our experience of insurance, banking, healthcare, we'll kind of, give analytics to all this BFSI industry, right? And because we had come from a services background, we were very clear that we want to kind of give a product to the business user, right? And not kind of get into services piece. So we thought that we'll do BFSI, give them an analytics product to a business user who can use it at the point of time, because I'm talking of 13, 14, and when we met our first few connects in the insurance industry, and they said that actually I give my data on a floppy disk, and the guy kind of goes, builds a model, gets back, and it takes me a month, so I have to plan a month in advance if I want to run a campaign for analytics. And we felt that there is a gap we could kind of address and give them an analytics product which they can run at their convenience and get the insights. Now, but obvious, like Amit said, when we thought as a startup we wanted to do everything BFSI, but we felt I was a little bit behind, comparatively silent in terms of using data and technology, and we said that as a startup, of course we cannot do everything, so let's first pick insurance, right? So we were very clear that we'll start with insurance and then gradually move into banking and healthcare as we grow. Now, trying to give a product of insurance, and with our background, we knew customers across geographies because we worked in US, the Southeast Asia and India in our past organization. We thought, or we were very clear that US will be our main market, right? But as a startup, as a product company, trying to go to US with not having enough experience on product or developing something or having some clients, we were a little bit hesitant to straight away go to US, and that's why we picked India as a first market, as a testing ground to see how things go. So we started with India, got few insurance customers out over there, started in 14 till 17, 18, we kind of did the India piece. In 17, we started exploring US. And for us, the simple reason of US was just the sheer market size, adoption of technology, right? 50 odd insurance companies in India, 4,000 plus insurance companies in US, 40,000 plus independent agencies, and you got 150 networks. So the market was pretty vast. The question for us was, do we do India, Southeast Asia, and then go US? Or do we do India and US? But I think we decided that we'll do India and then straight go to US and take Southeast Asia later on. So that's how the journey started for us.
No, amazing. That's just the perfect segue into my next question. See, as entrepreneurs, the glass is always half full. We always want to, jump at every opportunity that, that looks like, oh, let's do this, right? But a big thing that we need to do is always about allocation of resources, right? Whether they're manpower, whether there's time, whether there's capital, right? How did you, again, we can probably start over here, that, all the things that you mentioned, whether Southeast Asia or the United States, no, let's focus in India. But how did you go about, what would you advise founders in terms of what's the best way to go about understanding where to allocate those resources?
Yeah, sure. And I think what we learned from one of our early accelerators in India, which was a Microsoft one, I learned one very important thing: inch wide, mile deep. Right? So
Right.
I think that was pretty deep in us. And as I said, we met few insurance customers before we even started. So we all actually took like a 3-month break, met a few of these customers to understand what was the pain point. And as I said, we realized that pain point is giving them those actionable insights at the point of decision. And if we had to kind of fill that, insurance being a wide, use cases, business cases, we realized that we couldn't do all of that. And because of that inch wide, mile deep philosophy, we said we'll go with customer experience as our choice of use cases, right? So we said that we will not get into initial of acquisition of customers or on the risk side of it. We will go on the customer experience side, build first few models, few products related to the customer experience, and that's how we kind of started and narrowed down. So our first product was the NPS piece. From there, we kind of went into a centimeter, which kind of tells you the sentiment of your customer, right, using internal, external data. And then on top of it, we went on to build different models which related to risk, retention, cross-sell. So that's how the kind of journey started for us.
Fascinating. For you, Mangesh, it was a bit different because, Asia, and especially looked at Southeast Asia, as such a fragmented market. So I live in Singapore, and all my customers are outside Singapore. So when I'm in Singapore, I feel like I'm not doing any work, right? But there's Malaysia, there's Thailand, there's the cultures are different, the compliance is different. How did you go about doing that, and that too so successfully?
Yeah. See, you're absolutely right. Each market and entry is like a fresh start because every market you will have to prove. You may get global best practices. While there is some common threads in terms of the insurance practices, products, design, the architectures or the ecosystems, there may be some common cues, but there is always specifics to each market, the preferences, the local language is a very basic one, but in addition to all the rest, in terms of the nuances of each are very different. And leave apart at the time when we are entering, the compliances were emerging and evolving.
Right.
So it was always a challenge in there. So we started with more English-friendly first markets where it was more easier to penetrate. Though we had at an architecture level multilinguals and those as a capability existed, but to penetrate that, we first started with that. But with our proven track record, like what is said, customer experience or the true transformation, that was our core theme. That it's not like we're just giving an app, but I will help you transform your front end. So some of the customers came that I do not want to be an insurer. I'm a tech company getting into insurance. So that kind of a theme, I want to be paperless, and that really gave, they used the conventional core system, still remained the same core admin platforms, but their front end that we helped them transform. They were looked at in the industry as a digital player. So in that sense, that helped us giving them cross-references because most of the insurers are multinationals. So we work with one of the company in 8 countries, another we work in 5 countries, so third one we work in 3 countries. So there are those kind of cross-references really helped us expand into the geography, and that really helped us. Yes, definitely for the markets like the US and Europe, We've kept it for the later date because the market is completely different in terms of its treatment, in terms of the independent channels are much higher. Though you see independent channels in markets like Hong Kong, Singapore, much more than the other markets, but still the market ecosystem in US is completely different. So we were looking at that as a first win. And being a startup, many times even partnerships do not really take up in the initial years. You need to prove it yourself. So everybody would want to wait and watch till you prove, you have to establish, you have to make a success of it. So that once we have proven, now we have an ecosystem of partners, large SI companies wanting to collaborate and use our IPs to provide their services.
So fascinating. So,
Yeah.
can you guys hear me? Okay. Yeah, so fascinating. So you said that you went a bit smart about it by focusing on the English markets. You were always, although you had building global from start, multilingual, and then you looked at regional partnerships that gave you access, and then it grew and the partnerships. Fantastic. You want to add something in terms of how to allocate resources as
So
when you're starting a new market?
Yeah, so just keep in mind, I came from a 150 million budget to, large staff to coming down to really 6 people and operating there. So if I can give you 3 words to manage it, because you have time, you have your people resources, and then you have capital. If there's 3-word mantra I can tell you, it's focus, focus, and focus. Okay, don't try to solve world hunger, it's not going to happen. And then when you get to the customer side, I think 2 things I'll definitely say. You got to learn how to actually evaluate the customer's value proposition. At the end of the day, don't go in and try to sell what you're trying to sell, which definitely you need to have your product for that. But then really, what's the value proposition? What's the value outcome? Because we were selling to business executives. We were not selling to really IT folks in there. So this was not a numbers and a cost equation game. This was really a value game at the end of the day. So value is very, very important for that. And the second part I'll say is be honest. You got to have integrity to what you have and what you don't have. Don't try to oversell it, because if you oversell it, it's going to come back and bite you. So keep the focus. Focus is extremely important. And then the other side of it is you got to be a value proposition based. You got to show the value in that focus that you have. And lastly, I'll say high integrity. You got to have that, because these relationships and these things, they are going to become your ambassadors. And they're going to really help you sell at the end of the day, because it doesn't matter how many marketing brochures you have. It's a reference from a business executive to another business company. That's why insurance, that relationship and network out there, which is unspoken, unwritten, carries a lot more weight at the end of the day than anything else.
Fantastic. So Amit, how did you focus and how were you real? Yeah. Focus in real, yeah.
Yeah, I think we looked at couple of things. So initially, insurance needs understanding of the core business, and all of the geographies are, when insurance, the crux of insurance remains same, but how every small thing happens in, say, North America, even within North America across 50 states, there is a lot of diversity. We couldn't have done everything together. So what we did initial years, we focused on helping our customers with controlling their expense ratio. We just worked on that. That how do we help you optimize your current operations and help you contain your expense ratio. Gradually, as we were comfortable in that genre, and then our customers became our promoters, then we started expanding around loss ratio control. And then we started working on products, service offerings, accelerators, which helped them take a call on a certain underwriting much faster than their competition, or probably manage the loss control better than their competition, or be able to look at their whole portfolio in a better fashion and then take a call that, am I doing the right thing by taking the risk that I am taking today, or should I optimize it? So that's one of the ways we try to keep our focus intact. The other one was geographic diversity that we were creating. So when you need people there, you can't just do everything from India. So you need to have people there. We couldn't really hire right kind of talent in each of the geographies in one go. We just started gradually. We had our first set of business development folks in US, then we expanded in Europe, then we expanded in Australia. India is next. Probably as part of my role, EMEA and APAC, I am yet to expand into mainland Europe and the rest of the Asia and Africa areas. So that will probably happen over time as we believe that we have got the right solution, right kind of capital, right kind of offerings to expand in those areas, and then until then focus on ensuring the current customer is really happy with what we are doing.
It's fascinating. I think what I can hear is that all of you are saying the same. Like initial days is inch wide, right? Mile deep itself. You're a little low on time, but I think we're going to cover one more question. Is that what is the opportunity that you see for Indian founders to address any the problem statements around insurance worldwide? Like, do we have any kind of advantages? What leverages do we have, or do we don't? I mean, yeah, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, I pretty much feel we surely have an advantage, right? And I think I would say two things. One is because of the vast population and the availability of technology sources, I think our understanding of the insurance ecosystem and getting the right talent to kind of get to do things which are related to customer focus, customer centric, because you've got a wide segment of people around, right? And now with this availability of so much of data, your ability to kind of, let's say for example, get micro insurance, the financial inclusion done, and build models which are kind of catering to all these different segments and use that as your levy to kind of go to this international market and have that advantage over there, right? So I think that's the first piece I would say. And second is this entire digital push. We've kind of gone from paper to paperless. With that experience, we can kind of go and help all these other countries who still kind of struggling and trying to get over there, right? So this digital and trying to get things like micro insurance, financial inclusions for a wide variety of segment of people. I think those are the two advantages the India InsurTech system can take global.
Fascinating. Mangesh?
Yeah, primarily around it, Ashish mentioned it right. Initial days, always it was a resource pool and the scale, market scale that was always talked about point. But we always lacked the maturity because we were relatively a late starter in terms of insurance privatization, while most of the markets that we entered already had a very high matured markets. Now, at the same time, so the complexities in Indian market were much lower. Like even today, you see the illustrations are simpler, but in most markets it could be. But those kind of a thing we're learning. But if you look at it the other way around, in the last few years, the India stack, the digital ecosystem has put in, has helped us leapfrog some of the things. So APIs existed, ecosystem integration existed, but the experimentation of the digital ecosystem is going to lend us a huge experience. And the way we implement it in a much shorter, in an agile mode, is something I think can really help and can be taken as a experience story to the many other markets as such.
Fantastic.
So I'm coming from a different angle. So I think fundamentally we have very hardworking people and we have very smart people. Okay, so you've got a good foundation in there. And I think what's happened in the last 8-9 years is we've gone from a service sector aspect of just services companies, where primarily, I hate to put this, but they're mainly order takers. Now we actually have thinkers coming in and sort of moving up from there, and the capital has also come in. So combine those four things. You have capital coming in, you have thinkers who are actually thinking outside the box, given the opportunity over here, hard work, perseverance, and smart people. I think those combinations are really good to be able to test market over here and then really go global in that respect. But I think switching from the order taker to the thinker part has probably been the biggest transformation in that.
Fascinating. And Amit, you mentioned you're not going to be just about labor arbitrage. So you've always been doers. Now you have become thinkers and you add capital to that. How do you see that panning out?
It would be good if you just rephrase that.
No. I'm just saying that you mentioned that when you started off in your journey, it was only about labor arbitrage, and that's how India was looked about, right? So from just being doers, now the whole thing is, how do you see that panning out for Indian entrepreneurs?
Even in our country, we have seen last couple of years when there was COVID, a lot of tech talent moving from one place to another. The cost of good skill set acquisition was going through the roofs. There are current customers who have almost launched their newer captives in various mainland Europe countries as well, because the cost of resources have gone significantly higher here in India. So cost benefit that always was there for Indian subcontinent has almost gone, and probably in next 5 years it will go away for several reasons. One is that there is local business, and for that local business there is higher benefit of utilizing that talent, and then that talent is creating more value. And if more value is being generated, then you also tag higher credibility to that and you pay more. So all that is happening now. Only merit for utilizing India is for the human capital. I have looked at various delivery centers, feasibility of several regions in LATAM, in mainland Europe, in Middle East, everywhere. And then we came to this conclusion that probably they are not producing enough kids that we are graduating every year here through right kind of technology, academic background. So there is definitely a resource pool. If we get that resource pool trained in such a good fashion that they are really not just being the order takers, but creating innovation, creating IP, and then showing it to the world that this is how things are done, that's where value will come from India. And that's where we are probably headed to. And we are in a good place. Why should we always look at expanding outside? We should have opportunities here, and that's what is happening. I mean, it's clearly evident that insurance in India is growing to grow by leaps and bounds. And that's about to happen. It's pretty evident.
I think my company is a good example. We are spending a lot of time here in India because suddenly Indian enterprise companies are willing to pay for software. So this is something very new. Well, I'm afraid we have run out of time, but I'm sure we could have gone on for a bit. Folks, they've all come in from different parts of the world for this. So a big round of applause for the panelists. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you. It was an absolute pleasure. Cheers.